Bringing the regular meeting to order, and thank you for the technical group effort. So start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We should have a moment of silence for retired acting Assistant Chief David Jepson, who served the town for over 33 years. The minutes, are we prepared to vote on the minutes?
Could we table them until
Next meeting?
could we?
Yes.
So I could read them?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to table the reading of the minutes.
The approval.
Approval.
Yeah.
To the next
Nice.
month.
I seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, reports, I don't have really anything to report. Chief, do you have?
Sure. So, several issues you have in your packet. The budgets that are relevant to the fire department, that have been approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and the RTM is the fire department budget, which was passed with a $75,000 cut out of capital outlay. If you saw the Board of Finance meeting, the first meeting, not the vote meeting, there was concern about the additional staff, the financial impact of the additional staff that's coming out of the arbitration award, the additional promotions that were included, and the increase in the training budget. And they asked for a goodwill gesture on the part of the fire department to make some adjustment in the budget. Let me just say that in the past, it's been one of those difficult issues when you get to the Board of Finance. You've argued for a budget, the selectmen and the administration approve that budget, and then you go to the Board of Finance and say, hey, could you give us a little back? And the selectman or select person have defended that budget up until that point. So I went back and discussed it with the administration, and we recognized that a cut would be, we could tolerate a staff car and for $65,000 and $10,000 of other trimming of other items in the capital outlay budget is how we made up that $75,000 cut. So that's been approved, and there is a roughly, because of the increases, it shows in about an 18% increase. It's because of the new positions as well as the roll up from the arbitration award. So year over year, it's not apples to apples because of the backlog of wage increases. So that's been approved or approved by the Board of Finance going to the RTM. Hydrant and water, just a straightforward increase. We pay based on inch feet of pipe, so the diameter of the pipe in inches by how long those pipes are is a calculation that is given to us by Aquarion, and that is our fee that we get charged, and hydrants. So those inch feet of pipe and the number of hydrants is how that budget is derived, and it's $2.2 million in 2025. The
Do we
emergency-
rely I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do we rely entirely on their calculations and their accounts?
So their rates are set by Pura, so I start working with them in the fall for preliminary numbers, and then we find out what everything they've got from Pura so far in a letter that they give us to the first selectman's office in February. And then we work off those, we double check their calculations. But I mean,
We
it's
don't
like,
measure
I'm
the- we don't
actually
measure the
asking-
pipe.
but it's kind of,
No, I'm actually asking, do we know how many fire hydrants
Yes, we do.
independent of
Yeah,
them?
That-
Yeah,
How
that-
many
yes, we have
feet of whatever?
1,578 hydrants, and we have so many inch feet of height,
we don't have the ability to calculate inch feet of pipe. We do have the ability to ensure that the number of hydrants that we can charge for is accurate.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Have we, or have the water company installed new hydrants on the north end of town? There was always an issue up that way with no hydrants and stuff, and has there been any progress of getting hydrants up that way?
So there has been improvement. They've improved the capacity. They've increased pipe diameter. They made cross connections to improve the flow. And so particularly in the northwest corner, we have seen improvement in existing lines. They are, if we say we need to extend that water main, another mile down Westport Avenue, say. It's not within, they don't have the ability, and they're prevented from extending water mains and sharing that cost amongst all ratepayers. They only extend based on a development and paid for by the developer. So we have limited capacity to make substantive improvements in where they'll put a new hydrant in if we need a hydrant and we find a gap. If we see low flow areas, and we have Chief Sherwood's worked with them extensively to make sure that we are getting better quality of water flow and pressure, but we don't have the ability to extend lines. To that point, Hoytons Hill is an area where there is no hydrants on the backside of the golf course, and we're considering installation of an underground storage tank that we can draft from as essentially this type of tank, the underground storage tank you see at gas stations, fill it with water and then be able to draft off of that would be a solution, and we're looking at that as an option, and one that would be funded by the town of Fairfield, not by the water company. So that's a,
Yeah, gas is the same issue. They can't extend
Yeah.
unless the customers pay for it.
Yeah. Lastly, the regional fire school budget is before you, and as you all, let me just direct you to the page that shows the revenue,
Which number?
265. And so we receive, and we were receiving a grant of $70,000 from the state. That's been increased by advocacy across the fire service, including us, in the last General Assembly to $127,500. And so that makes an important share of the fire school budget. There are fees that are collected from the delivery of training classes and rental of the facility. We received $37,500 from the town of Fairfield, which essentially takes care of a portion of the overhead of operating the facility, gas, electric, and the like. And there is a fund balance. So we are constantly using some degree of surplus to put in a sinking fund. So if we have to do repairs at the burn building, or if 10 years from now we need a new roof, that we will have a reserve fund, a sinking fund that carries over from year to year, so that we can accommodate that. I will tell you that just recently we had and actually we're in the process of having the building painted. That is being done at the expense of the town of Fairfield. And so there is a partnership between the regional fire school, the training division, and the town of Fairfield to equitably assign costs and pay for the maintenance and improvements to the building. The Zoom rooms are paid for out of the ARPA grant. So all the technology for as part of that bigger project for Zoom rooms in multiple buildings. And I think that we've reached the right balance. It was a traumatic shock when we had to, and Chief Bisson was here at the time, had to create a standalone, budget separate from the town and go through all of the work to develop that budget. But we're at a point where it's running. So that's it on the operating budget. Capital budget I reported last month. We received funding for the shop truck, and that's been approved and is in process. Station study that will remove from the agenda, that is not going forward. Staffing, we will have the 4 new positions begin on July 1st. We'll go back to 4 vacant positions because we have hired to get people through the academy. So we are at full staff. We will go back to 4 vacancies on July 1. And we will then, as we spoke offline, the promotions for the lieutenants are in process. We don't have a hard date on that, but hopefully for the May 11th agenda, we will have that on the agenda to approve the promotion of 7 members of the department who are on the eligibility list, promote to lieutenant for a date to be determined. And entry-level testing, the process is open. The application period is open. Well, the deputy and I and others have, fielded calls and conducted some one-on-one discussions with potential applicants, try to move them towards a fire service career. And we've talked about it in the past. Is, for somebody who doesn't have family member in the fire service, this is a daunting process because you feel like everybody else is in the know and you don't. I have an interview tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with a young man who's going to come in and meet with me to understand the process of how to navigate the applications. So we'll continue to push that and set up some dates for recruitment efforts. And lastly, I mentioned earlier the hard work of Sheila Tessie has generated 3 reports that are in your packet, one for 2022, one for 23, and one for 24. All of the purchases that have been debited to the donations account. I'd be glad to answer questions tonight, but if you wanted to review it and come back and put it back on the agenda next month when you've had a chance to review it in more detail, we can do that. But I think that this, what I will say is we have been extremely careful in how we have administered the donations account expenditures. The first test is, do we meet donor intent? When there is a large, you remember we sent people to school, I reached back to Ken Martin and said, this is how we intended to spend a portion of the donation from the hot oil run donation. Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm hoping for. Godspeed, go forward. So we want to make sure that we are handling it appropriately. As you know, the donations account is, every department has, nearly every department has some, from the dog pound to the senior center to the police department, the library. There are a lot of donations accounts across all of 19 departments. They are being reviewed by the administration so that a standardized policy of handling can be developed, and I would expect that at some point that will come to pass. But I'm confident that what you see is very responsible expenditures for the needs of the department, needs of the personnel. You'll see a lot of furniture, you'll see a lot of weight equipment, and that is part of the donations account intent. Commissioner Brett.
Yes, on the testing, now that we're gonna test 6 days, this is a question really to both of you. Now that background checks every 6 months, would it make sense to plan interviews for 2 days, not 3?
So the test will be, the list will be refreshed in September. And that way, any new candidates will slot in wherever they slot in.
Right.
And if the commission is willing to, I mean, our staff will do whatever you want. I mean,
Right.
they're gonna come in. The burden is on the commission to make yourself available for 2 days to do those interviews. We don't need as full of a list because we
Right.
know that in September, it's unlikely that we will need more than, let's pick a number, 6.
Yeah, so
Which
it's
is on the
maybe 2 days
outside,
and then
that
1
is, that
day.
is and I don't think that we need 6, but
Right.
we should have a list of 6 for September.
Mhm,
And that means that we will need to interview 2 days.
2 days.
I think that would be great. That
And
would
then
be-
depending on where we are in September, we can decide, do we need 1 or 2 days interviews? Because we've got a list that
or
maybe we
may-
haven't
Or
exhausted.
we may not,
Need any.
if we only hire 1 out of that 6.
Right.
We may not go back to the
Interview
well
right away.
and use that remaining 5 for any vacancies that come up in February. I think that's a great approach.
Because the other thing is getting those 2 days on people's calendars.
Yep.
So if you can work a timeline.
Yep.
And
So-
email us a timeline.
So for general parameters, we know that the test is on May 11th. The results will be available to us next week. And I think that we talked about this last month, is the very first week of June. If that works, that we can target that for interviews. And that will give we're not late in the month when there's a lot more going on.
So
So
we'll be in time
I
for the June
will-
meeting.
who's sitting on the panel this time?
Well, that's part of the reason I'm bringing it up, because I'm not sure we know that. I will. I'm happy to. And so we need somebody else who will commit 2 days.
I enjoyed it the last time, I know.
I just,
I
I,
told
Yeah.
Mike I would do it this time.
You
Okay.
would do it?
I would do it.
Okay. Done.
Mike did it last time, I couldn't,
Right.
I need as much time ahead of time,
Right.
then I did perfect.
So between the 2 of you, because I can make my schedule flexible, Ginny.
Yep.
Between the 2 of you, figure out which 2 days you want to give up in the first week of June, and I'll make my calendar.
Are you available on weekdays?
Yes, just as long as, Chief, just as long as I have enough warning.
That's why I'm saying
Would
work on
2
the
months
date.
be enough?
Perfect.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted
just
to
need a
do
week.
this now.
I need a
Okay.
week
We
to-
will,
No, we're gonna lock
we'll
in
circle
dates.
back, we'll pick 2 days, put it on the calendar
Yeah,
and,
and you may wanna, before you pick, clear with Ginny,
Oh, yeah,
her calendar,
yeah.
her calendar's
Yeah, that's
probably
right.
the most
Yeah.
complicated.
so anywhere from June 3 to 7 is what we're targeting. And is one day of the week better than another, or 2 days of the week better than the other 3?
Yes. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is better.
Okay.
But I can work around it.
Okay. Perfect, and then that result of that, and that's good timing, because the result of that will go to the Board of Fire Commissioners for a vote to establish a list on the 13th of June.
And that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday's fine with me. And I also think we ought to think about rotating firefighter staff to do development, figure out what
We'll
that
figure it
means.
All of them, or just?
I think I can speak for the folks who have participated, is there is real ownership there, just as you
Right.
have, and real ownership and experience and building on that experience. And hey, I know what we have seen now over several iterations. And maybe if we, phase 1 out and 1 in,
I think it's a
as opposed to
rotation.
wholesale.
Oh, yeah, no, I post a rotation, but I can tell you
We-
from my
we has to attend.
my conversations with them, they think it's important to
Oh, yeah,
rotate people
yeah,
in.
yeah. There's a very strong commitment there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Any
you,
other
Chief.
questions, comments? Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
That's 5, 6, 7. We'll pretty much try for 5, 6.
It's all right, I'll just put a hold on the calendar. So I won't do something stupid like this.
Right, and we just have to make sure that space is available.
Heels in man from Machu Picchu.
I'm staying in country for a while.
World economy is going to suffer.
Good for you. Sorry, Dorothy.
Awesome. Okay, so in the realm of operations, we had a couple of structure fires. One was on Bayberry Street, which was a stovetop fire, and quick knockdown by our units prevented serious exposure. We had a fire the other day on Center Street, flames from the roof upon arrival. I don't know if you've seen it on the Facebook post that we put. The fire was, there was a fire originally in the fireplace, so our investigators are taking a look to see what the method of propagation was, but units spent a good deal of time there and prevented any further spread of the fire, and I think it was a success with the amount of fire that they had seen upon arrival, that they quickly knocked it down and worked at overhauling. As the chief said, the shop truck is ordered. It's gonna take a little time, and then we have to, we're looking out now for who's going to do the body for it, because we buy the chassis and then we have to get the body with the crane on it. So it's gonna be a little complicated, but it's our mechanics are excited to to get something that's going to work for them, because this is what they take out in the field at night, during the day, whenever they have to visit an apparatus that is broken down on the road, which does happen frequently. We're trying to buy a staff vehicle, an Explorer. We had a bid that was due back today, and there was only one bidder, and we're gonna have to work out some of the difficulties with that bid, because they said that it's somebody in Florida, and they said that it's a 300-day delivery time. So we don't think that that's gonna work. The price was more than we had budgeted. So we're gonna on Monday, we're gonna talk to purchasing about any other options for purchasing a vehicle. It's difficult. State contract wasn't out at the time, so normally we'll go by state contracts. So we're having some difficulties. So we're trying to work through that. So we'll let you know if we have any breakthrough on that. We're working out the details, and we passed through the Board of Selectmen the other day, the fireboat rental of Marine 225, that's what we call it. It's the temporary replacement that we used last year when our fireboat was out of service. Our fireboat is still out of service. It's up in upstate New York near the Canadian border, and it would be ready, refabricated before the end of this boating season. So we're going back to what we did last year. We rented a safe boat, which worked out pretty well for us. It's not a perfect situation, but it'll give us a footprint out on the Sound. So we'll have that probably, I think in June. We're gonna start we'll rent it as of June and have it through the boating season. And the great thing about that also is that our people know how to operate that boat. You know, when it came in last year, you know, they had to work out the bugs, and now they're pretty familiar with it and fluent. We've had initial meetings with in regard to Clam Jam. So for the last few years, that's been a success. It's been tightly controlled and a ticketed event. There'll be some more people this year, more students, 1,800 as opposed to the normal 1,500. But we think that things will, it'll be under control. Fairfield University does control that event. You know, as I said, it's ticketed, so
Where's it gonna be?
it's gonna be at Jennings. So it's a different place than they've done before because of the construction at Penfield, but they have good footprint, and we've taken a look at the plans, and there's gonna be some more meetings with all the emergency management partners, and town reps with Fairfield University. We just had our first meeting, but we'll have some subsequent meetings. In the radio system, just an update of what's going on. They've given us a plan for the Train the Trainer in June. They're gonna give us a day for the fire department for the 3 radio types that we're getting delivered. So what we're going to do is have 3 to 5 of our employees learn from Motorola how to operate these radios, and then they'll be the ones training our people in the field. So I think that's great because they will have, you know, these invested people, and these people are radio gurus too, so they're fluent, so to be able to break it down to our firefighters. So that's coming up. So these are exciting things for us because we know that the new radio system is on the way. It's not gonna be here tomorrow, but at least in June, they'll be starting, you know, that training of the portables. About 4 weeks starting in August, they'll be doing the installs of the mobile portions, you know, the mobile radios. So that's a lot of things where they have to take apart headliners and whatever they have to do to install these new radios in our sedans and in our fire trucks. What we're gonna do is we're gonna give them a section of the apparatus floor where their techs will be able to store their equipment and bring them in each day and do it for those 4 weeks. So it's an extensive thing because it's you know, it's a new radio system, it's a new radio band, so it's new hardware. So it's then we have setups of our DVRS, which are repeaters that are gonna go in the apparatus, which are gonna record some of our fireground transmissions and also then repeat them and send them to dispatch, but also send them so that, for example, if the chief was in, you know, in Hartford coming down, he could be listening to the fireground on his way. You know, normally you can't hear the fireground transmissions far away. But these are things that are going to take those transmissions and send them over the air, at least to people who are allowed to have listened to them. We're doing, in preparation for the new lieutenants, we just got installation of carpet in Station 1 in that spare room that's between it's right behind the kitchen. If you know Station 1's kitchen, there's that small room. So carpet was installed, it was painted. James Ryan has been great with the DPW installing different things. They fixed the air conditioning split units, which weren't really working that well. They replaced them and they're working great now. We've got some furnishings are on the way. Prep for Station 2. Station 2 is a little more complicated. They're going to make where, if you know where the assistant chief's office is, they're going to take what was his dormitory, which was off of that office, and they're gonna make that the new lieutenant's office because it's also available through another doorway. And then the assistant chief will take the other part of their existing office and a little bit of that EOC room that's in the front. So there's some technological things because there's a lot of wiring in there that have, you know, communications and network things that have to be moved. Some wall changes. James Ryan was up there the other day with us, and he's great. He's very cooperative and has great ideas. And he's working with, you know, his thoughts, but also the thoughts of the firefighters that work at Station 2 that are construction oriented. So and Chief Sherwood is kind of the person on the ground. So that's coming along also. And as the chief mentioned, there's a lot of painting been done in this building. You see, you know, this classroom, the classrooms, the hallways, the main classroom 102, but also if you look in 102, they did a chair rail around it, and it's beautiful because, you know, what happens is every time somebody pushes a table, it takes a divot out of the wall. The chair rails are very, very much needed. I think they're gonna eventually do them here, but it's a great, a small thing that yields great results. Let's see, I'm sorry, and that's the end of my.
Sorry, Chief, the overhead door issue.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry, I should have included that. So we have we've been having a lot of issues with the overhead door. So we do have Mr. Piers is involved in speaking to the representative, and they want to fix things. We also had an independent garage door company come out. It's the same company that we've used traditionally to fix our doors, Bob and Ray's, and they came out and they did some work. He had a theory on what needed to be improved, so we're waiting for his report. He visited there. I still haven't gotten his report about what he found. So we want to see if that's a global solution for some of the issues that we've had. He also, you know, we also had some ideas originally, hey, could it be this, could it be that? And we did hear feedback that no, it's not the rail size, it's not the wheel size. But you know, he had a theory, so we're gonna see if his examination yields any you know, more credence to that theory.
Okay,
So we'll continue to
Thanks.
let you know about that.
Commissioners, any questions? Yes.
Yes. Deputy Chief,
Yes.
did I hear you say that you were looking to purchase a
Stan.
staff car?
Yes.
So then how did I misunderstand, or did I misunderstand, Chief, when you said that you gave back 75,000?
Next year's money.
Yes,
This is-
Thank you.
it's July 1 money.
Okay.
This is.
You gave back a car and staff car, that,
Yes.
okay.
So we've had that money all this year, but the problem is that with state contracts open up at a certain time of the year. And so we had to wait the whole time of year because it hasn't opened up. It's been very frustrating. And they still haven't put out a 2025 state contract for this type of vehicle. So,
Got it, okay.
so, we've been having some struggles with that, so.
Well, I would just like to say, your report is so, I mean, people, but you're so transparent, I find it very interesting, and may I just take a moment of personal privilege to tell the chief and the deputy chief how much I thoroughly enjoyed Captain Sherwood's, Chief Sherwood's, his station, and we all went there.
Wasn't it great? Yes.
It was excellent.
Great host, yes.
We had plenty of people, you know, nice showing, and if I'm being redundant, I apologize since I didn't come to the last meeting, but I want you to know that it brought a whole new perspective to what we're doing as volunteers on a commission.
Thank you. I'll give
How
my feedback.
critically important it was. Wonderful, great information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just circle back for a couple of
Sure.
items? I wanted to let you know that we are working, the state of Connecticut runs a annual exercise, a disaster exercise, typically in October. They have chosen to run it in June this year, and it's gonna be on election security. Something that's top of mind for all of us in emergency services, you know, what happens on the day of leading up to the election, the day of the election, and most importantly, what happens the days after the election, the potential for some challenges, let me put it that way. We, last year for the state exercise, we met as a region. And we all participated in the exercise collectively. We're gonna do the same thing this year. We're going to meet at Fairfield U has made space available in the new Dolan Center, the event hall there. All 14 communities from Region 1 will be invited. It will include the typical emergency management representatives from police, fire, EMS, but also include IT, the registrars, the town clerk, and the polling site moderators, at least one polling site moderator. So I expect that, we're working on updating the event action plan. So there is an existing plan that the registrars had to submit that really came out of a template from the state. So you can imagine the template from the state and done in a different era. So we're working on an event action plan, and I expect that. And our preliminary plan is during the election period, we will open the EOC and be ready to respond, because what, is simply not having enough pencils or enough ballots could be perceived as a nefarious, act and undermine the reliability and confidence in the election. So we want to make sure that we have a very robust team to support all 10 polling sites in Fairfield and the registrars. So this will be a process that we go through, but it starts with, it's already started. We've had a preliminary meeting, emergency management meeting with the registrars. We have invited now all of the communities to come to Fairfield U on June 12th, and we will be developing the event action plan, which will be the basis for our response during the exercise. And then we'll, after action, review that and make modifications so that we're prepared for September. So that is an important, development. The other is we had on March 4th a reunification training for the region, but more specifically for the Fairfield public school system. We're waiting for a date from the school system to do a full-scale mobilization of the reunification system at Black Rock Church. We have, since that training on March 4th, and in consultation with the CERT team, determined that we really need to engage the CERT team in handling the specific roles outlined in the reunification process. Leave the teachers and the administrators to handle parents and students' emotional and physical well-being and accounting. But the mechanics of moving people through the process can be best managed by someone that we can train and retrain and exercise. We just don't have that ability with teachers and administrators. Their time is so jammed and limited that this would be a one and done, and we would never get them back in the room for future training. Fortunately, the CERT team has been very responsive and willing to play or act in that role. So we'll continue to develop that. But that'll be the reunification training will most likely be in August before the school starts. Two important parts of our emergency planning.
I think Commissioner Brennan has.
Were we involved at all at the lockdown in Notre Dame today?
No, that was handled by the police department, and we did not get mobilized. So.
That was reported as a swatting incident. Okay, those sound like very timely drills. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Is anybody here from Southport volunteer? Stratfield volunteer fire. The union local 1426. I see Assistant Chief Calipers is on the call.
He's
muted.
And Mark Smuda, who's reported in the past.
Yeah, they can unmute themselves.
Yeah.
I understand. Does anyone from the union want to speak?
You're all on mute, so you have to unmute.
Smuda and Eric Caliper, Chief Caliper, they are on duty and they just had a call to Sacred Heart University.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Is there anybody else from the union? Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. Okay, sir is here.
It's here.
He's here.
We're in the house.
Let's see, I'll just give you a couple of highlights. We have to submit an annual report to the state, which was recently completed. I'll leave it to Cindy to present it at some point, but I took a look at it. Looks like we've had over 1,600 volunteer hours this past year, which is a good number of hours our folks put in. Recent activity, we were activated for I guess it was called the Beach Bunny 5K that the Park and Rec promoted, and we did the usual in terms of parking lot and working with people and pedestrians there. That went well. I guess really the highlight is we just completed which I'll remind you again, is about 30 hours of training on Saturdays. So these folks are, we talked about it, Chitty. These folks are, very committed. And we graduated 14 people and they joined the team. So now we're probably over 120 on the team. And First Selectman Gerber and the chief came and welcomed and congratulated the students, which was great. We had a graduation ceremony and pizza party. And upcoming, we have a lot of activities that I won't go into. The fly and the half marathon, but we also are planning, and we do annually traffic training with the PD, since we get out there so involved with pedestrians and cars and so on. We do that every year, and we try to do it after the basic training so we can pull those folks in. And that's it, unless you have some questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Always a great job.
Thank you. It looked like there were a bunch of thank you.
No.
Yeah.
No donations, but nice notes.
Nice notes.
Yeah.
Very.
Old business, we talked about the interview dates already. New business. Public comment. Are the union folks back by any chance?
They're still on the road.
That's it. So this,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
all those in favor?
Aye.